but snapped Kelly from her reverie. "It's time to go," the police guard informed her. Kelly nodded, getting up from her bed. My bed, she thought humorlessly. How eerie that sounded. She hated how homey she'd become with this place. Kelly allowed herself to feel at home in this small cell that had no windows or furniture that wasn't bolted to the floor. She had to banish that feeling since this was not the place she belonged in. Are you sure? She banished that immediately. They allowed her to change into her own clothes, a pair of black slacks and a white shirt, before escorting her to the courthouse. Kelly had been held in jail for weeks. The police arrested her for murder, and now her day in court had finally arrived. "Mrs. Carlsen," her lawyer Brian Morrison greeted her. "How are you holding up?" "All right, I guess, considering." Truth be told, she was on pins and needles while looking about the courtroom. A lot of people she didn't know came to watch the spectacle. And this was a spectacle since the charges were ridiculous, preposterous, and she was innocent, of course. The problem was, a rather vicious, powerful, and of course wealthy woman had a serious grudge against her and would stop at nothing in her quest to destroy Kelly's life. "I believe I found something that will be favorable to your case," he shared. "Really?" A normal person would ask, why? Why was this happening? Why did that woman hate her that much? In reality, Kelly stopped asking herself that question simply to preserve her sanity. Kelly sighed with relief when she spotted her son sitting in one of the back rows. She noted he looked good, if not a bit gaunt. That was understandable, considering all that was happening. She waved at him, offering a big, reassuring smile, and he nodded in return. That troubled her. At least he is here. She didn't have time to dwell on her son because the bailiff started speaking, stating the honorable judge's name as he entered the courtroom. Judge Connors settled in his chair. A deadly silence fell upon the room as the officer continued to speak, stating her case, her crime. Brian Morrison, her lawyer, a man in his 50s, was the only person who looked worse than she did in that entire courtroom, Kelly noted as he greeted the judge, introducing himself. Which could only mean he was living a very stressful life, skipping meals, sleeping less than he should. Kelly mused it wouldn't be easy, having the knowledge that a life depended on how good he was at his job. Her life now certainly depended on him. When all this ordeal started and Kelly got arrested to her utmost shock, a dear friend reached out to her and recommended Mr. Morrison. And so far, Kelly felt like she'd made the right decision trusting him. She could barely afford him. However, since it was imperative to be proven innocent and be reunited with her son, there was no money she would spare to achieve that. The court allowed them a second autopsy to be performed by an independent third party, and Mr. Morrison looked confident as he shared the new evidence with the court. "As you can see in this report, David Carlsen was not only allergic to nuts, but shellfish as well." The story went like this. Kelly, unsatisfied with her marriage, decided to poison her husband, and knowing he had a deadly allergy to nuts, gave him some, causing him to go into anaphylactic shock and die. The fact they found no traces of nuts in his stomach didn't stop them from arresting her. She tried to reason with them, point out he felt sick after insisting on eating in that new seafood restaurant, yet no one listened to her. They were all so convinced, all the detectives, the prosecutor, that they found their culprit, that nobody believed her. And Kelly knew why. Because Mona made sure of it. David's mother hated her with a passion, always had. And poor David died in Kelly's arms. Usually, he always had an EpiPen with him, especially when visiting new places, but this time he didn't have it. They were so short on money he failed to buy a new one, and it cost him his life. Kelly cursed the day she agreed to that date. She would gladly starve for her entire life if it meant having David back in her life. Kelly was now equally surprised, like the rest, learning that David had an additional allergy. He'd never told her of it.